to understand this. This is not a chemistry lesson. I'm explaining to you what you need to know to become what you are. So this is not something you should blow off and say, oh, well, I don't need to know chemistry. This isn't chemistry. There are chemists that have looked at this and tried to quantify it, but that's not what I'm talking about. When I use the term phase, what I mean by that is, well, say you make two fists and you're throwing out punches with both arms at the same time, meaning both fists go out and then come back and then out and back. And you're looking at, say, 10 feet in front of you, how much air is displaced from that vantage point, from both fists going out at the same time, pushing air, and then sucking it back as they're coming back toward your chest. Compared to, say, if you alternate punches, where the left hand is out while the right is back, and then the right is out while the left is back, how much air is displaced 10 feet in front of you? Because, see, if both fists are going out at the same time, you have double the amplitude, double the force, double the amount pushing on the air, and then sucking it back and creating those wave pulses in the air. However, if you're alternating punches, as one is pushing air, the other is pulling air, and they cancel out their effect. That's a very good way to look at phase. If it's, and they would call that 180 degrees out of phase, or opposite. As one is inducing force, the other is retracting force, or pulling back. I guess as one is pushing, the other is pulling. Put it that way in your mind. Well, the same thing occurs with light, sound, electromagnetic waves, thought, neural impulses. And so, yeah, it's true. If I play a 500 hertz tone to you, say directly 10 feet in front of you, they would call that 0 degrees azimuth. They're always thinking in terms of 360 degrees when they're quantifying things. And say I play 500 hertz. What's really occurring is something is pushing and pulling on air just like your fist is going out and back. It's displacing the air. But 500 times per second. Then you understand, if I were to put a speaker right next to it and play 500 hertz, same frequency, meaning the same speed, it's still displacing the air 500 times per second. However, think of it like fists that go alternating out and back, out and back. As one part of the diaphragm on one speaker is pushing on the air, like one fist going out and displacing the air, the other is pulling back. They call that compression and rarefaction when you're dealing with sound. Rarefying, meaning creating a void, compression, compressing it together. Same thing with your fists going out. Well, what would happen? If one is pulling back on the air while one is pushing, and they're both 500 hertz, so they're both the exact same amount of time, okay, the same number of cycles per second, but exactly opposite to each other, or 180 degrees out of phase, it's going to cancel out its effect on the air. You won't hear anything. And they call this phase canceling. Okay? Well, the same thing now occurs with the electron consciousness. It's vibratory. And so it doesn't have to be something that's pushing in and out. A frequency can be just the number of times something does something per unit of measurement of time. Those are interchangeable because time is a result of that. But think of it simply. So if you have part of the electron consciousness vibrating one way, and the other one that it's matched to is at the same amount of time per second, the same cycles per second, the same hertz, the same frequency, which is how many times per second it does what it does. It could be twisting back and forth, it could be oscillation, it could be, up, down, whatever. I mean, if blinking can be a frequency. How many times do you blink per second? How many times do you breathe per second? How many times do you think about your feet per second? This is quantitative. When you're dealing with a quantum, that's an attempt to arrest life. That's dealing with how much. That's why it's funny when I hear people that claim to be spiritual talk about how much they like quantum physics. That's all mathematics and formulas and You know, they may hear someone like, say, Deepak Chopra discuss quantum mechanics and reality and then feel they understand quantum physics. No, it's not the quantum physics you like. It's the qualitative nature of life. Physics deals with the physical. What is affecting the physical from a physical point of view. But anyway, in this consciousness of the electron consciousness, I don't even like to call it electron because that implies that it's a particle. I like to call it dark energy. Not that I am embracing good and bad, light and dark, and I'll get into that, but we'll use that as a better example. As one part is vibrating, the other one will couple to it, part of that consciousness, the same frequency, but 180 degrees out of phase with it, therefore making it and rendering it neutral. This is why they tell you that an atom is 99.9% empty space. It is not. The energy is there. It is just phase canceling itself out. Meaning there are no wavelengths of that consciousness for you to read. But it has gone nowhere. The observance of this will tell you why the Illuminati do what they do. Trying to play God by always balancing an equation to try to seek neutrality. That's why they try to control good and bad. They're trying to balance a mathematical equation, and you'll understand that later as to why that is missing it. See, what they're doing, math is not life. And that's what they embrace: numerology, structure, geometry, mathematics, numbers. Quantitative elements. And because their point of view is that way, they are like, what's happening right now is like that cartoon of Bugs Bunny where maybe a leak will spring in something holding water and he'll put his finger up against it and then another one will spring and he'll try to cover that and then another one springs and he'll put his nose up against it and another one springs out. Every time they try to plug a leak, another one's going to spring out. Trying to arrest the nature of life with math. That's what's happening. It's what has happened. Let's get back to an atom, though, because this is very important. So am I telling you that there are only two energies in an electron cloud and they phase cancel each other out? No. It's just that which is paired with another one will phase cancel it out. So how does consciousness manifest then? Switching the phase to double the amplitude in a moment, materialization, and then switching back to phase cancel. It can pop up anywhere. And that's why a lot of people miss that. They'll watch a movie like What the Bleep Do We Know, it's called, and they say an electron can be anywhere at any given time. No, it's a fluid consciousness. It can pop up anywhere at any given time by shifting phase and interacting. And it doesn't have to shift to exactly the same. It can be 45 degrees out of phase. It can just create the amount of amplitude it needs to create an interference pattern between the two energies within it. So what happens is, yeah, you have, okay, once you get beyond the first orbital, they say, okay, you need 8 electrons. 8 bytes to a bit in a computer. Let me explain something to you. When you see these UFO examples, and all these UFOs that look like light come into an organized pattern and they start flickering and everybody says, oh, look at the neat light show. What they're doing is communicating the same way atoms within a molecule will communicate with each other. They're shifting the phase to suddenly double the amplitude so that which was neutral suddenly lights up. And if you are on that frequency and that time scale of an atom, when the atom communicates with itself, it would look identical to the UFOs you see flashing and doing the light dance with each other. If you were on that time scale and that